In 1996 seen a pair of lovers, who were being detained in the St. Estes Naughty Children's Dormitory. The lovers were named Cletus Kasady and Francis Barrison. The reason Cletus was detained was because he had a history of crime as a serial killer, the most violent, while Francis had mutant power in the form of a supersonic scream, which is of course dangerous for those around him. Unfortunately, their togetherness ends here, after the police had to move Francis to a safer place because Francis's strength was increasing day by day. Francis was then put in a police car and guarded by one of the police officers, the policeman named Patrick Mulligan. On the way, Francis tried to escape with his supersonic scream. The scream ruptured Patrick's left eardrum. While enduring pain, Patrick fired a shot into the franchise's left eye, and made Francis fall into the street. All officers including Patrick thought that Francis was dead, but in fact Francis is still alive. Francis' body was secretly taken by someone to a secret facility called Ravencroft. We turn to the present, whereas Patrick Mulligan, who is now a detective, asks Edie Brock to interview serial killer Cletus Kasady, who is now in San Quentin prison. Patrick tells Edie that of the many victims whom Cletus killed until now have not been found. This must confuse the police to give the appropriate punishment to Cletus. Long story short, Edie has arrived in San Quentin. He starts interviewing Cletus. Here Cletus asks Edie to write down a message, and he asks him to print it in the newspaper, which was actually addressed to his girlfriend Frances. If Edie does Cletus's request, he will tell about the massacre he did. Edie finally accepted. Before Edie left, Venom saw Cletus' cell room, which was filled with scribbles on each wall. Arriving at the house, Venom led Edie to draw some scribbles in Cletus' room. From some of the pictures that Venom made, there is a picture that shows a beach. Apparently the beach is where Cletus buried his victims. Edie also reported this to the police, and immediately the police managed to find all the bodies of the victims. Thanks to his findings, Edie's career went up again. Not only that, the police and judges also changed the law. Cletus, who was previously imprisoned, is now sentenced to death. At night, Venom began to feel uneasy because for how many months he had not eaten brains and was only fed chicken and chocolate by Edie, because Venom's treatment was getting out of control. Edie also brought Venom to Mrs. Chen's shop for bought chocolate, but apparently stocked chocolate in the shop that it was sold out. Eddie then took Venom away. The next morning, when Eddie and Venom were preparing breakfast, Edie gets a letter from Cletus, which asks Edie to meet him as the last meeting before Cletus is sentenced to death. In the letter, Cletus also writes about his life, which has been a psychopath since childhood. He killed his own mother and often received harsh treatment from his father. Cletus then was put in the St. Estes Naughty Children's Dormitory, but there Cletus got bullied from other children, until finally Frances arrived, who used her powers to protect Cletus. The next day, Edie too meets Cletus in San Quentin. After meeting Cletus, deliberately provoking Edie by saying that he and Edie are the same, where Edie's father blames Edie for causing his mother to die while giving birth to Edie. Hearing this, Venom was angry. He pushed Cletus against the wall, then pulled him in front of Edie. Here Cletus bit Edie's hand until it bled. Fortunately, one of the officers immediately separated the two. Now Cletus already knows Edie's secret, who has a symbiote. Cletus then finds a sign of Edie's blood, which doesn't look like normal blood. The blood moves like parts of Venom's body. He swallowed his blood and wished he could have what Edie had. Arriving at Edie's house, angry with Venom, who instead showed himself in front of Cletus. Venom, who did not accept Edie's anger, even scolded Edie. The two continued to argue until ending in a fight. Then Edie deliberately turned on the fire sensor alarm, which makes Venom hurt, then gets out of Edie's body. Venom chooses his own way by riding in someone else's body. Not only that, Venom also destroys Edie's new motorbike, then leaves by riding into someone else's body. In San Quentin, the officers, the warden, began to execute Cletus by injecting poison into Cletus' body. The execution was witnessed by the families of the massacre victims, who had been waiting for this moment. When the poison was injected, the liquid suddenly turned red. Cletus started convulsing, and then the symbiotes of Venom evolved into many, which made Cletus into a terrible red monster called Carnage. Carnage then attacked all the officers with his strength. After some officers were removed, he came out of the prison to go to the city. When he arrived in the city, Cletus killed a man and took his suit. Then he stole a car from the parking lot and went to find his girlfriend. On the way, Carnage made a deal with Cletus. If we want to rule the earth together, we must first kill the creators, namely Venom and also Edie. Of course, Cletus accepted the deal. The two of them then entered a shop, then killed one of the employees just to access his laptop. After that, Carnage accessed the internet and found Frances' location at Ravencroft. While Edie and Venom are now living their own lives, Edie is back to normal life as an ordinary human, while Venom is wandering the city enjoying his freedom. Edie is then visited by Patrick, who informs him that Cletus managed to escape from prison with a monster figure. Patrick also asks about the last interview Edie and Cletus, which may have something to do with Cletus' escape. Edie, who is afraid that Venom's whereabouts will be exposed, replies that the interview has absolutely nothing to do with Cletus' escape. On the other hand, Venom deliberately attends a Halloween party. Venom's arrival impresses visitors with Venom, and thinking that it was a Halloween costume, Venom went on stage to give a little aphorisms, that aliens should be treated well and should coexist with humans. We're back again to Edie. Edie tries to investigate Cletus's escape by looking at Venom's scribbles. Edie finds a scribble in the form of a St. Estes building. Without thinking, Edie decides to go to St. Estes. When he arrives in front of St. Estes, Edie finds the tree that Venom drew. The tree has an engraving in the form of CK Love FB. Edie then reports this finding to Patrick. Here Patrick tells Edie that FB is a franchise. Harrelson. Patrick says that Francis is dead. On the other hand, to be precise, at Ravencroft, Dr. Pozzo tells Francis that his girlfriend managed to escape, but Pozzo is sure that Cletus will not be able to find Francis. At that moment, Cletus appears from Francis' cell, then he kills Dr. Pozzo with Carnage's tentacles. After that, Cletus and Carnage free Francis from Ravencroft. But the security guard stopped them. Francis then tried to help Cletus and Carnage with her supersonic scream, but it actually made Carnage hurt in a high tone. Carnage warned Francis not to scream again. Cletus and Francis finally manage to escape from the officers. They go to the city to lure Venom. On the other hand, Venom's condition is now starting to weaken because everyone he is riding is not strong. Venom goes to Mrs. Chen's shop to ask for help. While Edie is now being held by Patrick, here Patrick shows some evidence including the destruction of the Apollo spacecraft at Life Foundation. Edie was able to find the bodies of victims of the massacre very quickly, meaning Edie did not work alone. Before Edie admitted that she had a symbiote, she asked Patrick to call Anne. Patrick also obeyed Edie's request. After Edie met Anne, Edie revealed that Venom was no longer in her body, and now she really needs Venom to defeat Cletus, who also has symbiotes like him. Edie then asks Anne to find Venom and brought him here. Anne understood and immediately went to look for Venom with Louis. The two then went to Mrs. Chen because it was Chen who knew about Venom. Here Anne was suspicious of her words. Mrs. Chen, who seemed angry with Anne, she realized that Venom is in Mrs. Chen's body. Anne asks Venom to enter her body. Because Edie really needed him, Venom entered Anne's body and went to meet Edie. After meeting Edie, Venom refused to enter Edie's body and instead used Anne's body to escape from the police station with Edie. Edie's escape was known by Patrick, who now he knew that Edie had a monster like Cletus. We go back to Cletus and Francis. Both of them go to St. Estes building and burn it. After that, Francis went to Edie's apartment but she didn't find anything. Francis then found a photo of Edie's loved one Anne. Francis immediately went to Anne's house to arrest her. When she got there, Francis immediately caught Anne, then asked Louis to tell Edie to go to his wedding at a church. While Cletus managed to find Patrick on the street, he caught him and took him to the church. Edie, who looking for Cletus's whereabouts in the tower, suddenly got a call from Louis, who immediately told him if Anne was kidnapped by her girlfriend Cletus and now he is in Catral Grace. Without much to say, Edie and Venom go straight to the location. Arriving at the cathedral, Venom immediately shrank after seeing Carnage's body, which is bigger than him and also has a blood red color. Edie then entices Venom to eat as much brains as he wants if he wants to fight Carnage. Of course, Venom agrees and is ready to fight against Carnage. At this time, Francis instead shouted at Venom, which made Carnage also feel pain. Carnage also warned him and asked to just kill Patrick without using a sound. Carnage and Venom began to fight. Carnage, who has a bigger body, easily beats Venom. Meanwhile, Francis takes revenge by gouging Patrick's eyes. At that moment, Louis comes pouring fire on Carnage's body. Of course, it makes Carnage angry. He chases Louis and manages to catch him. Fortunately, Venom came, which directly dragged Carnage back into the fight. The fight was ultimately won by Carnage and Cletus as Venom began to feel himself the weakest. Cletus and Carnage then took Anne to the top of the building and caused the ruins of the building to fall on Venom's body. Francis saw that Carnage was going to kill Anne. She tried to stop her because what Carnage was doing was too much. When Francis was about to let out her sonic scream, Carnage first smothered her. Francis' mouth made her faint. Cletus, who couldn't accept it, tried to get out of Carnage's body, but Carnage kept holding him back. Venom then saw that Cletus and Carnage were not tied, unlike himself and Edie. It made Venom rise to fight Carnage. He climbed up while carrying a long iron. And when Carnage was about to eat Anne, Venom immediately stuck the iron into Carnage's face. After that, Carnage kicked Venom and Anne, making Anne almost fall down. With as much as possible, Venom lowered Anne slowly while being beaten by Carnage. At that moment, Venom saw Francis woke up, and with and on purpose, Venom pushes Francis to fall right under the bell. Francis then lets out her sonic scream, which sends Carnage and Venom out of their respective hosts' bodies. But the scream also drops the bell, which directly hits Francis. Venom falls onto Louis' body, then channeled it to Anne to catch Edie. While Cletus fell without his symbiote, Carnage then tried to crawl into Cletus' body, but Venom immediately stopped him, then ate Carnage. After which Venom ended Cletus' life by eating Cletus's head. Not long after the police officers arrived, Edie also ordered Louis and Anne to leave here while congratulating them on their engagement. While Patrick, who lay limp, suddenly his eyes flashed a strange blue light. A few weeks later, Venom and Edie went on vacation to the beach. The two of them discussed what plans they were going to do. Venom then said that we need masks and costumes like other superheroes. In the post-credit scene, Venom and Edie are seen lying in a room. Venom then tells Edie if there is another angle, the multiverse, that can be seen by the symbiote. At that moment, a teleport light appears around them and ends up in another hotel room. The two then see television news about the news report from Johanna Jameson. He reveals the identity of Spider-Man after the movie Spider-Man Far From Home. And that's the end of the storyline for this Venom movie, guys. I hope you guys are entertained by the storyline that I brought, and always, thank you for watching.